Good afternoon, everyone. This is Allison Young. I'm a senior loan officer with the Export Credit Insurance Division. I know I've met quite a few of you, and there are others that I haven't met, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for your time and attention today. We realize that some of this is going to be basic to some of you, but we hope that everyone may get some benefit from these tips that we think will help the process go more smoothly for all of us and the exporters. So we're going to start out with some tips for the initial stage of requesting a quote. So the first thing is we would ask everyone to use EXIM Online to submit applications. We will not, we won't reject an application if you send in a hard copy or a PDF, but it does slow down the process when we have to ask a PMA to actually manually enter the application in EXIM Online for you. The next thing is please refer to the short-term credit standards to verify the eligibility of the exporter and the buyer prior to submitting the application. This will let you know what the requirements are, and if something is not being met, it gives you an opportunity to provide some supporting information for an exception up front. Please complete all the required fields of the application. I know that sounds, basic, but you'd be surprised how many times things are missing, and we have to go back to either to the broker or the exporter to ask for that information. Please verify the exporter's DUNS number and their NAICS code prior to submitting. Oftentimes these things are not correct. Like in the comments or in other parts of the application, we'll see that the company is a manufacturer, but the NAICS code that's in there is for a wholesaler or something like that. So they don't match up. So we ask that you confirm that these are correct before the application is submitted. Please input an accurate product description. EXIM Online is going to automatically dump the NAICS code product description in. And so we ask that you go in and correct that and make it more detailed for what the actual product is that's being exported for the application, because this is the information that's going to then get input into the policy declaration. So you want to make sure that it's accurate. Next slide, please, Ed. Thank you. We ask that you use the full legal name and address of all the parties. This is another thing that sometimes slows down application processing when we find there's some discrepant information in the DMB or with other participant records that we have. So, we want to ask that you, verify, what the legal name is and that you're not using trade styles or acronyms in the name. The small business designation must include to determine whether or not they meet the criteria to be designated a small business. We have to include parent companies, affiliates, and subs, both domestic and international. So if you could do some of that legwork up front to help us make that determination and determine those relationships, that's really helpful. Explain any anomalies and provide supporting documentation. By this, we mean if, what's being asked for is something that is misaligned with their historical sales or other information, please provide, some documentation to support, why what's being requested makes sense. If you could acknowledge any missed short-term credit standards and provide mitigating factors up front. When you check the short-term credit standards, if you see that there's something that they are not going to meet, then you have an opportunity up front. You know that this is probably something that the underwriter is going to have to ask about and provide mitigating factors for. So if you have information as far as things that mitigate this misstandard and could provide them up front, that's very useful and helps speed up the process. And finally, just as I mentioned, any supporting information that you have, go ahead and attach that up front. And that's it. Now I'm going to turn it over to Anna.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Allison. My name is Ana Gonzalez, and I'm going to talk to you about some tools that we recommend using. They apply to both the SBCLs and the quote applications. The comment section. Some of you are already using this section to provide additional information, but we would like to emphasize the use of it as it may reduce the number of questions that we ask. You can also anticipate where Exim underwriters can see deficiencies and proactively address these deficiencies in this section or provide the information via attachments. So, for example, for a special coverage, just provide details. Let's say that you have the service, the insurer wants coverage for services. That can be included in the product section, but you can also include a brief description of the services in this section, just whatever the service is, installation, maintenance, training. Now, for additional name insurers, normally the 3 questions related to ANIs, they are already incorporated in the application, but we need to verify that the exporter and the ANI are related. So if you can provide some information as to how are they related, is the ANI a subsidiary or are they related by common ownership? And let's say that we are not able to verify this information via DMV, then it's very likely that we are going to ask you to provide third-party documentation evidencing that the ANI and the exporter are related. Let's say for warehouse endorsement, you can enter here the number of days that the product is going to be stored in the warehouse, or if the exporter owns the warehouse, and if they retain title of the goods while they are in the warehouse, or if they have control of the warehouse. This section can also be used to provide information about the relationship with the buyer. The ledger history section, it asks for basically the length of the relationship. But here you can tell us how the relationship was developed. Have there been any visits made? When were those visits made? Is the buyer transitioning from secure terms to open account terms? Let's say that this is an SBCL amendment and you're asking for longer terms or higher amounts. It will help us to know the need, why the longer terms are needed, because sometimes we look at the reported shipments and we don't see the justification for the increase. So if you can give us an idea, maybe they just received a large purchase order or any reason that they have for the increase. You can include here the comments from the broker accounts managers or from the regional office. Now, you can also elaborate on exporter experience and the expertise. This is really helpful when we are dealing with quotes and the exporter has limited operating experience. Also, substantial information related to the company and the principal's experience may be helpful to mitigate that missed standard. You can also indicate here explanations for overdues, or let's say that there was a bankruptcy filed back in the 80s. You can indicate that the case is closed, or any experience they have under the private sector. If there were any claims filed, we may need additional information, more details. You can also include here the specific contact information. And this is mainly for brokers that have for firms that have multiple brokers. So you can include here the name and the contact information of the broker assigned to the application. The employee count. DMV provides the employee count, but it's not always accurate. So you may want to include here also the number of employees especially if we are dealing with an exporter like Alison mentioned, that is part of a group. In order to determine if the company qualifies for a small business, we need to look at the whole group. We don't look just at the exporter. So please provide the total number of employees of the group. That includes foreign and domestic subsidiaries, affiliates, parent companies. Next, please, Ed. Thank you. Now, the short-term credit standards. As you know, the short-term credit standard is a document that is available in EXIM's website. And it's a very useful and transparent document that provides the minimum information required to evaluate a transaction. So please be familiar with the short-term credit standards and provide the required information. For the credit report, as you know, the list of authorized credit report users is available in EXIM website. So the credit report should be issued by one of those entities. The credit report should be fresh, no reprints. It should be dated 6 months from the application date, and it should include the names of the buyer that is listed on the application. The short-term credit standards provide a very good description of what a favorable credit report is. You can check the information there. I'm just going to mention some of the information that needs to be included, and that is the names of the shareholders, number of employees, date of establishment, legal status, and the line of business. And the line of business has to be aligned with the line of business of the insured. So technically they should correspond. The financial statements for transactions greater than $500,000, financial statements are required. And they should display the company's name, and they should be in a proper format. We don't need to review the whole list of general ledgers for the company. So we just need to make sure that the financial statements are in a proper format. Unconsolidated, if available, audited or signed, and if they're audited, the notes should be included. And if the fiscal year end is more than 9 months from application date, we may require interim financial statements. The trade reference form, as you know, is also available in EXIM's website, and it includes all the information required. Now, the exporters, they can use their own trade reference as long as it includes all the information noted on the EXIM Bank's trade reference. The trade reference should state clearly the currency type, US dollars, euros, Mexican pesos, whatever the currency is. It should be current, should be dated, it should be signed, and it should be comparable to the requested terms and the requested amounts. It should also be verifiable so that if we decide to call the supplier or contact the supplier via email, we should have that information in case we decide to verify the trade reference. And it has to be obtained by the exporter, not by the buyer. The exporter should be the person contacting the supplier to obtain reference for the buyer. And that's all for me. Now I'm going to turn to Christina. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So good afternoon. I'm Christina Conti, Senior Credit Officer in Export Credit Insurance, and I'm going to talk about application best practices for renewals. So both the multi-buyer policies and the short-term single buyer renewals will generate in the EXIM online system 60 days prior to their expiry date. So for multi-buyer renewals, generally we request the current foreign accounts the foreign accounts receivable agings report, and we may be requesting financial statements. Financial statements, typically we will request them every 5 years from all insureds. Or we may request, there'll be instances where we may request them sooner than that. If we know an insured may be in a sort of weaker financial condition, we may request the more up-to-date financials. Or if we notice significant changes to the reported volume and need to make adjustments, we may request financials in those situations. For the foreign accounts receivable agings, we expect to view all of the foreign accounts. Ideally, the date on the report should be listed, the full name and location of the foreign buyer, the amounts outstanding, the payment terms, invoice date, due dates. The aging should show how it's aged. Ideally, we prefer by the due date, but if it's aged by the invoice date, that should be indicated in like an email to clarify, and also provide any explanation of past dues that are over 60 days. With regards to SBCL renewals, at renewal, if the amounts are below $300,000, we typically consider based on the exporter's favorable ledger. Also, for larger amounts, we will require typically updated credit information, and the underwriters will reach out to you via an email requesting more information. So, in your discussions with the insureds, if when you discuss renewals, if you know of any changes or any buyer limits that they don't want to renew or any limits they want to request changes, let the underwriter know. With regards to the short-term single buyer policy renewals, similar to the SBCL, amounts below $300,000 can be renewed based on favorable ledger. For the short-term single buyer, we will request a detailed ledger experience, and we want to see the information for the last 12 months, and the ledger should show the invoice dates, due dates, payment terms, and payment dates. Depending on the amount and the transaction, we may reach out if we need additional information or clarification. We typically strive to complete the renewals before the expiry, but it be helpful if you periodically follow up with exporters if they haven't responded yet to their renewals to check in on it periodically, so we can renew before those policies expire. Next slide, please. And then finally, to conclude, we just wanted to emphasize, some broker considerations. One is regarding additionality, and this will typically involve for new applications. So what this means is if there's an exporter that appears better suited for private sector insurance, for example, a large size entity, really strong financial condition, good quality spread of buyers. Because we don't compete with the private sector, EXIM will need a little more explanation of why they're applying to EXIM. Another consideration involves application accuracy and consistency. So, for example, helping the exporters make sure the information they provide to EXIM is accurate and complete, that the information in their attachments matches with their application. making sure that anything that's not clear is explained. And like we mentioned before, include in the comments section any information about the exporter that you think will be helpful and useful for the application, any comments from regional office staff or broker account managers. Also helping assist and guide the exporter to help them understand sometimes why we might ask certain underwriting questions, and then just make sure that responses are clear and that they make sense. As far as like application status, we typically use the hold feature in the online system, so you can see where we are in terms of application status and what might be pending and what additional information we may need. So for now, this kind of concludes our section on best practices, and we're going to open it up now to some questions, and you can submit them in the text box. Thank you.
So thank you, Christina, Anna, and Allison. I was sharing my desktop instead of the document, so unfortunately I wasn't able to look at the questions ahead of time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now as we transition to the next topic, but let me just open up the conversation and see. Also, just to make sure there isn't anyone else waiting to get in. Okay. Not seeing. Please,
Okay,
here's a question. Please, yes.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I saw a question asking what SBCL and what ESS stood for.
Yes, that's the one
Okay.
question I see there.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so SBCL is for special buyer credit limit, and ESS is exporter short-term single buyer policy.
Okay. Actually, another question came in a little bit earlier. Please define affiliates, because this goes to the question of when they're providing the information about the exporter and they're including their affiliates.
Well, affiliate could be a subsidiary or a company that shares the same owner.
Is there, I'm wondering if there's an ownership threshold there or not. Do we know? Okay, maybe we
Hi,
come
this
back
is
and check.
Jean. I can jump in
Yeah.
really fast. This is Jean. A couple of things to keep in mind for affiliates, because I'm not sure the broker which way you're going. There's affiliates, for the exporter as far as adding them on as a related party for an A&I. There's also affiliates for determining the definition of the SBA small business. And then there's affiliates with the buyer. And generally, one affiliate relationship we look at is the exporter and the buyer. And as a sort of a base rule, we say if the exporter and the buyer have more than a 20% sort of ownership or relationship, then we can't provide comprehensive coverage. It might be political risk only. However, that being said, if one or the other controls the other, even if you only have 1%, then we might not look at that as far as be able to provide comprehensive coverage. So don't know if that answers the question, or if you want to expound on that, or I'd be happy to get back to that person later with more details, get a specific transaction you wanted to talk about.
Okay, thank you, Jean. There was another question here. Someone I think was asking about the acronym BAM, and that is Broker Account Manager. Let's see. Yeah, the follow-up to the affiliates question was and specifically with respect to the determining qualification of the insured as a small business. Not sure if that's...
And yes, as you know, we have to follow the SBA rules, and basically that looks at everything. And also it does sort of get into a gray area. I don't want to get into it. If someone's are they 100% owned potentially by a private equity firm, or maybe the private equity firm only owns a small percentage? But we do, we are required to look at all related companies, including foreign companies, like if they have a foreign parent or if they have some foreign subsidiaries. We do have to look at the whole organization and either look at total employee count or total revenue, depending on what industry they're in.
Okay. Thank you, Jean. Not seeing any other questions, and we are running a little bit long already, so let's transition to the next subject. Before, Lauren, we hand it over to you, we're just going to have Amy Shinkman just make a few brief comments, and then it'll be over to you, and I gather you'll be sharing your screen, Lauren, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct.
Amy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Ed. I won't take too much time. Like Allison said, it's nice to see so many familiar names and the attendees in this meeting. And for those of you I don't know, I look forward to working with you in the future. I just wanted to give a little background for what Lauren is going to do a demo of for us. You will have all received the email last week, and your clients will have received it, I think, on Tuesday, explaining the process. But just for you all brokers, I wanted to give you a little background as to kind of why we're doing this, why we're requiring certifications at renewal now. And to a certain degree, this is something we probably really should have done a long time ago. But a lot of the impetus for it happening now is coming from our historic reauthorization in 2019, which was for 7 years, but did contain some new requirements. One requirement, for example, that we added to the certification was that no applicant to Ex-Im Bank or beneficiary can have been convicted of defrauding Ex-Im Bank for the last 5 years. So that's something that was added to our certifications, I think, within the last year or so. And it's something that we really need to get everyone to certify at renewal to help us comply with our charter. So that's a big reason that we're doing this now. And then I also just wanted to give a plug to say, this is a new process for all of us. We've tried to design it as easy to use as possible. So really all the insured has to do is go in basically and check a box, click a link. Lauren will go through it in detail. But we know there are probably going to be some teething pains and some growing pains. So we really appreciate all of your help in helping educate our mutual clients to make sure that everyone gets to keep their policies. So thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amy. Hi, I'm Lauren Kirsch. I work in the IT department. For those I've talked to before, I've been with Ex-Im for about 20 years, believe it or not, in the contractor capacity. So I really feel like part of the team here. I am going to just walk through the certification process. And unlike the prior presentations, as long as we can do it so that we can keep moving, I'm happy to take questions as we go through. We have obviously people on the line like Jean and others who can help answer questions. I also have my colleague Devakar on the line who is going to be looking at questions too if you want to write them in. But just to let you know, because we want to make sure you get your answers as we're going through the process. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And Amy kind of already gave you the background on the why, so I'll just show you how it translates in the system. So you'll see here, I am going to log in as a exporter. Whoops, give me one moment, just always, because your show here. There we go. Okay. So I created my own company here for this demo. You'll see the exporter logs in, and a lot of this should be in line with what you received in the broker communication. Also, this is in the communication that went out to your customers. So I have here a policy that has the renewal was initiated, it went through underwriting, and it was approved. And it is now pending certification. So you'll see here, one of the big things to notice is that we've introduced a new status in just the renewal process. So once an application is selected for renewal, it is underwritten and approved, and policy documents have been reviewed and approved, we will go ahead and transition this to a pending certification status. So the policy docs will still be available for you and your customer to view on the policy detail page. However, until this certification is completed, the renewal will not go into effect. So you'll see here, this is my transaction. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to complete this process because I want to also log in as the broker view to show you, but you'll see here that we have this new link that'll be there for its pending certification. And when they click on the pending certification, they'll have that certification language, and then they'll be required to click on this certification link and click submit. If they were to go in, we many times get this for new applications. People are like, I can't submit my application. I'm getting this error. And they try to submit. And what happens is they give them this message. So what this means is, you may have seen this before, is that you just need to be able, you have to click on this link, pull up the certification and view it. And once that's completed, then the system will allow you to submit it. Until that happens, they will receive an error message if they try to do that. Okay, so you can get to, they'll be able to get to this link from a couple different ways. One, here under the pending applications that I showed. Also, if you were to come in under insurance enforced recently expired policies, you'll see here transactions. If they come here, under the click on the policy number, under the pending application section, you'll see here that the renewal is still here and it tells you that it's pending certification. So if you were to click on the tracking number through this link, it takes you to the same place. Same place, you click on here, you now have pending certification and you can go through the process. Now I'm going to log out here. I just want to log in as a broker and just show you what you would see. Okay, so you can see here, I'm going to come under here, and we've added this in a few places for your ease of use. First, I'll show you if you come under pending applications. You can see here I have a couple transactions and it tells me that they're in pending certification status. So if you had several transactions here and you wanted to see which ones were in pending certification, which ones you might need to follow up on, you can see here this is sortable. These are all the same, but you can go ahead and sort on that. Another way you could be able to access information to see which ones of your clients have pending certification on their renewals is under our search portfolio. Under our applications, you'll see this pending certification status. If you click on that, it'll take you to the same place. And you'll notice here when you come in, you don't have that pending certification link. That link that we just saw when we were the exporter is not available to you because the certification has to be completed by the insured. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and we'll log back in and we'll go ahead and complete one of these. And real quick, before that happens, I just wanted to show you, I know you got this in your in the communication that we sent out, our how-to guide, but we have updated the approval notification for renewals. So in here, you can see, and I know we've received some of your feedback, so thank you. We're definitely taking that into consideration and looking what changes we can incorporate into the communication. So thank you for all that we received. But you'll see here, we tell you a date by which it needs to be confirmed. And as outlined in that document, we are allowing a minimum of 30 days for this to be completed. So what that means is, as you know, renewals are initiated 2 months prior to expiry date. So if the renewal is kicked off and underwritten and happens to be approved 2 or 3 days after it's been initiated, obviously you would have almost a full 2 months to be able to complete that, and the certification would expire on the expiry date of that policy period. But if for some reason, as I think Christina might have mentioned, sometimes renewals take a little bit longer. Sometimes they don't even get done prior to the current policy period expiry date. They might run over a little bit. We account for that. So if the policy is approved and the documents have been approved as well, we will give 30 days from that date to be able to go ahead and do that certification. And also, as outlined in the communications that were sent out, after that 30-day period, there is an internal 15-day grace where they'll have to send in the paper copy and be able to internally have staff go ahead and complete that certification process. And if at that time it is not certified, as you saw, the policy will then go and expire and transition to that expired status. So here is the email, and all the emails that are being sent out, we do provide the date for which that certification will expire. So this email will go out when the renewal has been approved. A follow-up email will go out if certification hasn't been completed 15 days prior to this date. And then also we have an email that'll go out 3 days prior to let you know if it's still pending, let the customer know, the insured know. And also we send out an email saying thank you once you have certified, to say thank you so much. Your certification has been completed. No further action is required, and we'll go ahead and your policy will go into effect when on the renewal effective date. Okay. So let me go back in here. And I'm logged in here. I'll go ahead and pull up my pending application. And as I think Amy mentioned, we try to keep our customers in mind, be customer friendly, simplify a process as much as possible here. So that's what I want to take some time to show to you today so you can help your customers. If you go ahead and click on this pending certification, and it requires me to go ahead and open up the document. So ideally, they read through it, familiarize themselves with what was done when it was new. As we know, certifications may have changed. So go ahead and review that. Once you've completed that, then you go ahead and submit, and it's completed. So you'll see the link is gone. So now I just want to point out here under our status history, you'll notice that you see this, I'm not sure how many pay attention to status history, but just to note here, so the documents had been issued and this new status we added, pending certification. That was the status it was in. Once that pending certification is completed, the system will update the system immediately to note that it's been completed and then transition it to issued, telling the system that the certification is done, and on that effective date for the renewal, it will be in effect. We capture this also so that we know what user, who went in to be able to certify and the date and time that happened. So we want to be able to capture that information and have that on file. So now you'll see that this policy is issued. And if we were to go back here and take a look at our pending applications, it's no longer there because this renewal was actually in effect as of the 1st, but you'll see here. So that's gone. I have nothing left under my pending certifications. And if I were to go here, pending applications, excuse me. And if I come here down, you'll see that it's not there anymore. Okay. So there's a little job that runs that'll update it. So by this evening, this will now show the new policy period of the 2/1/2021 to 2/1/2022. And so then if we were to log back in as the broker, we will no longer see that transaction. So if we come here, we can do it this way. So now I only have one. So you can see here the other one has been completed and it'll no longer be under my pending applications. So when doing this, we wanted to keep in mind to be able to, we know that you'll be helping your customers and keeping track. So we want to provide, ease of use for you to be able to go in and easily identify those that are out there that need the certification. So under that search portfolio, we added that additional status. So you could easily go in there, pull it up and see all those that are in that status currently. And let me see here. I should have an email that tells me, let's see. Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. It's, oh no, this is a different one. Sorry, it should come in. I'm not sure if I have this on here, but like I mentioned, after the certification is complete, you will go ahead and get an email thanking you for certifying and that the process is done and no further action is required. So that pretty much sums up the demo. Are there any questions or anything that we want to go over?
Thank you, Lauren. There was one question. let me go back to it. Yeah, just to confirm that the email notifications of the renewal status go to both the client and the broker.
Yes, they do. Every single email, the renewal, the approval, any kind of reminder emails, as well as the certification confirmation will all go to the broker as well.
Okay, I've got another question. Can the exporter send in a hard copy of the signed certification in lieu of the electronic process? Do we have any takers on the ECI side? I mean, I think what we're trying to encourage here is the use of the automatic electronic process to keep it simple and easy for all the parties involved. I think there may be situations where, out of necessity, the customer would need to download it and sign it and send it in. Hopefully that will not happen very often. So I think that's technically possible. But again, we would encourage folks to try and stick to the automatic electronic renewal process. I don't know if any of my ECI colleagues want to correct, add to, or elaborate on what I just said.
Ed, this is Jean. What you said was 100% spot on. We prefer it done electronically. We built it that way. One of our concerns is if someone sends in a hard copy, say, to an RM during the renewal process, something, could get misplaced and it doesn't get done. And there is that, in theory, the shortest would be a 45-day window, and we just don't want any policies to be canceled. So really, we sort of hope that would be a last case scenario where you send in hard copies ahead of time, or send in a hard copy versus trying to encourage them to do it in via EOL.
Okay, thanks, Jean. I'm not seeing any other questions on this particular subject. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Ed, real quick. I just want to mention, I know it was in the communication, but just to comment that, we are looking, this new functionality is looking to be deployed into production on the 11th of February next week. So starting on the 12th, that any renewal after that will be impacted. So just wanted to mention.
Right, that's the key, right? It's any renewal that is approved by Ex-Im Bank after February 11th. For any renewals approved prior to that date, this process does not apply, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. We've run about 5-6 minutes over, and I do want to be respectful of our original time commitment. I'm not seeing any other additional questions. Let's call it a wrap there. And first of all, thank all of you who joined us, both from the broker community and from my colleagues inside the bank. As Amy said, and just to emphasize the fact that this is a new process for everybody, and there'll probably be some glitches as we go along, and we'll do our best to minimize those and resolve any as efficiently and as quickly as possible. And we appreciate the comments and feedback that we've already gotten from some of you about the process, and we definitely are taking that feedback on board. A couple of links were shared by some of my colleagues and others in the chat function here, and we'll make sure that we share those with all of you separately along with the PowerPoint presentation. And again, if there is a way to share the recording externally, one way or the other, we'll try and figure out how to do that. Otherwise, please send in any questions you have after that may occur to you after we've said goodbye today. So with that, wish everybody a good day, wish you well, and look forward to speaking with you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ed. Bye-bye.